Just finishing up our first day here. Any questions on Jacksonville?
Sean, you guys have talked. You talked a little bit about the Monday plan earlier this week, but what has made this in particular good at taking whatever happened to you performance?
Look, I think there's that 24-hour rule to some degree, and it can happen. After a tough loss. One of the challenges in this league, I think, is a gut-wrenching loss, and then coming back in and trying to flush it and get on with the next goal. But I think it's about the leadership of the team, and I think the momentum and the understanding each week. We have this term. This is a big game. Of course, this is an important game, and there are going to be bigger ones. But I think it starts with the players and the leadership and the way they approach it.
One of the challenges going against Trevor Lawrence has really been on a great roll for them.
Yeah, I'd say this. They've really. I think they've won 5-6 in a row, and ATM. They're doing a lot of things really well. They're scoring. Mondays, I look at the touchdown reel, and there's a ton of good schemes. He came up under Sean McVay, and so there's certain beliefs relative to what you're going to get in the run, in the pass game. I think the one thing that stands out, they're plus 10 in the turnover ratio. They're second in the league in interceptions, and so I'm not going to say they play man-to-man, but there are a lot of snaps, like last week, where 7 eyes are on the quarterback, in their zone coverage. And so, we've got to be on point. They mix it up defensively. They've got a very talented punt returner. And so as you look at them and you watch the tape, it's a smaller market, but you see a real good team.
Coach, you touched on what makes them so efficient at taking the ball away.
Well, you see the punch-outs, and then I would say, generally speaking, in those zone coverages, like they rush the passer real well, and so if you're hurried into zone coverage throws, that eyes are on the ball, and it's different when your eyes aren't, when you're playing man. And let's be real specific. There are some weeks we play corners that can't catch. And so when you throw at a corner who can't catch, you can get a completion, an incompletion, or a pass interference. I would say they have very good ball skills in the secondary. But a corner who can't catch we're going to throw jump balls to you just the downside or the risk drops dramatically, and so they have really good ball skills.
Sean, at this point in the year, with how much is on RJ right now, how are you trying to manage just his workload? Guys, attitude?
Yeah, I think. Look, it's a great question. I think we're doing it in third down situations with Bidet and Adam, Jaleel. I probably need to get him a little bit more touches. I made that note after the game. And again, he's built in a way where he can handle a good dose of running, and this is the number one run defense in the NFL, and they're stout, they're strong. I would say they're rarely out of their gaps. And so, at this stage of the season, and if I give you that week 4, you'd say, all right, but at this stage of the season, to be first in the NFL in rush defense, they're doing something really well. So, that's impressive.
Any concern with the rib for him?
No, he's feeling good. He's good.
Sean, do you see any similarities between Liam Cohen and yourself? The first year success, and how impressed are you?
I don't. Yeah, I've met him once. I was just telling I was just telling Greg, I was walking into the Four Seasons Westlake for my interview with Denver in California, and George is going to be in the veranda, but coming out was Liam, and he looked familiar. We said hello, and I think he was just leaving the Rams, sold his house, and I think getting ready to go to Kentucky, and I think I probably met him. I think he came to one of our camps when I was in New Orleans. But look, those guys have done a great job. They've done a great job, and it's hard to flip a program, like that quickly, and then you can feel the buy-in and look, all the things that can take place when you're winning.
They added Myers at the trade deadline. How have you seen the offense kind of switch?
Yeah, well, he's a real good player. We know him. I think it was a week before we played the Raiders, so that was the good news. And then the bad news is, well, we're going to see him later. But he's I would say a real good route runner. He's one of those guys that catches the ball with his feet on the ground always. So real strong hands. He does a lot of things well, and that was a good addition for them, for what they do and what they're wanting to do offensively.
You've lost Brand Jones for a while. How much of a luxury, though, is it to have a lock, a guy who's been a regular starter?
Yeah, just that depth. It happened, a month ago with Pat, and we don't take it for granted. Just having guys that have played real time in games, that certainly helps a lot. And last week, with Pat Bryant out for a week, the pitch count goes to someone. LJ played more. Michael Bandy. So he's played 5 years in this league. He's been in 12 games. And we still haven't covered him defensively. And each week, I say to the offensive guys, we got to find a way to get him up, and he does so many things well. And that was his first touchdown. And that was pretty cool to see because, his journey's different. And but the looks and the tireless effort, that's exciting for the team as well because they know, how much he puts into it. And that was a good heads-up play. And it was supposed to be Mims's play. There was a minute when he was out, and so Bandy jumped in because he knows every position and ends up catching Mims's touchdown.
Is it almost more fun when you have these guys get their first score, guys that ran it versus? Anytime
you see growth, or just you want to see guys do well. If you're a teacher, you want to see your students. You want to get the grades back that are good grades and feel like they're learning, and so it feels good, especially for guys that 5 years is a long time, but he embraces the role. And he, like I said, he could go in at any position and not flinch, and that's not easy considering all the formations and plays we have.
Coach, on Bandy's touchdown, you got Cortland and you got Bo sprinting, racing each other basically to get Bandy's ball. When you have a team you
can tell, yeah.
How does that impact winning?
Well, it tells you everything about the player, That year that Taysom Hill was waived, it was the final cut down for Green Bay. And I was watching tape of Max McCaffrey, the receiver who was waived. And I was looking at tape for him to come to our practice squad. And I knew the player, in other words. So when I was watching his film, it was usually third quarter, fourth quarter. And there was a play or two made by this quarterback. And he stepped up and ran 48 yards for a touchdown. And I called Jeff Ireland in, and I said, hey, who was 7? And he told me, and I said, watch this. He goes, oh, I know he can run. I said, you're not watching. Just keep watching. And what was interesting is when he scored, 58 guys from the sidelines came to the end zone. I said, look at this. And so there's that, does a player endear himself to his teammates? And I think that's a really, really valuable asset when they do.
Sean, last 3 weeks, percentage of the time that Bo's played under centers keeps going up. I know you said at times it's situational.
It went up last week?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would say this. So we knew a little bit about how they scouted. And so if you know how they scout, then you have your people self-scout you the same way. And so, we wanted to be more play action under center. There were just certain things that we wanted to do that were the opposite maybe of what we've been doing. And so I wouldn't have kept track of that pitch count. But you're my gun tempo guy, so.
Sean, you got Cody Schrader off the waivers. What did you like about?
We liked him the last time around, and look, we're 32nd right now in the claiming order, and it was just another good back that we felt like, you can't have enough of, and his story's interesting. Small college, walks on then at Missouri, earns a scholarship. Rams, how he's here today is pretty interesting. And so I just met him for the first time. I'm glad he's with us. I know there was a lot read into that. Trust me, that was the furthest thing from our mind. It was more about this stretch run, making sure we're healthy and we have depth there.
You spoke really highly of Tim Patrick when he was here.
Absolutely.
To see him having success.
I love it. Yeah, he was. Well, you guys know more than I do. He just was a pro. Great to be around, and we were devastated. I think it was like one of the first reps of minicamp. So I texted him last year in Detroit, and then lost track. And then you see him showing up. You see periodically on this touchdown reel. You always worry about the ones that get away, but, Sills has had a few in Atlanta now, and some of these guys that, you're happy for those guys.